It's the Fellowship of the Geek Show, a weekly podcast about comics, the comic book industry, and other geek pop culture. Music courtesy of Mandy the Martyr. And now, on with the show! Hey everybody, it's the Fellowship of the Geeks podcast. My name is Thomas Chick, and joining me for this episode is Mike Marlowe.
Hey gang.
Lynn Les Webster.
Hello all.
Unfortunately, Liz could not be with us this week. Hopefully she will be back for our next episode, and hope you get well soon, Liz. We'll miss you.
She ain't gonna listen. Come on, we already established that.
That's true.
Last week.
Yeah, we did. That's true.
That's okay.
So, how are you guys doing?
Doing all right.
Doing pretty darn good.
Hope everybody out there is doing okay. So, what's been going on in your corner of the galaxy?
Well, this week I don't know how I managed to do it, but I actually found a little time to catch a couple of documentaries on Netflix. The first one is called Bombshell, and this is the Hedy Lamarr story.
Cool.
I was waiting for one of y'all to make the Hedy Lamarr joke, but anyway, that's okay. It's a really interesting. She's got a really interesting story. If you don't know who Hedy Lamarr is, she was a huge movie star in like the 30s and 40s. After she moved here from Austria, like in the early 30s, and was very obviously one of the most beautiful women in Hollywood for a couple of decades there, and she also, what a lot of people don't know, is she had a very interesting hobby. When she would get home from working the terrible hours that being on contract with a studio back then would give you, she had a kind of a workshop in the back of her house, and she was an inventor. I won't go into too many details because you should watch this documentary. It's a little on the sad side, but it is very interesting. She had a patented invention during World War II. That is something that is still used today. Not exactly what it was intended for, but go watch that documentary and see what it is, because it's very interesting. The other documentary I watched is called Now More Than Ever. And it is the story of the band Chicago. And what? Yeah, you're all shocked. You've seen it, I'm sure. This is a really good documentary, I thought. There was some interesting, obviously there was some interesting personal dynamics going on there, and there were some people who did not choose to participate in the documentary. There were some people that I'm really surprised did also, but that's a different issue.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of interesting stuff. I learned a lot more than I thought I would.
Yeah.
Watching that. And for me, the interesting part was, this was done in 2017. This was last year, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Because they had the Hall of Fame induction in there, and that was in 2016. I was actually moved when they started talking about Terry Kath's death.
Yeah.
Because two of those guys pretty much broke down 40 years later talking about this. And I was like, wow. that's rough. I felt for him. I really did.
Yeah, anytime they talk about him, they start breaking down. You definitely see it in the Terry Kath Experience documentary.
Yeah, I need to track that down. I haven't gotten it. Have you seen it? You've seen it. Of course you have.
Yeah, I've seen both of them, yeah.
But man, yeah, I mean, I can't say I was surprised, but it was captured well in terms of the documentary itself. They did a good job of kind of capturing the emotion there. I mean, and like I said, 40 years on, they still tear up talking about it. It was just, yeah. And there was a lot of interesting stuff there.
They say he was the heart of the band, and the way they reacted to this act, it's like, yeah, it's got to be. Still,
it was clear that was really the case. And I mean, you can read them saying it, you can read it in print all you want, but it's not the same. And they, like I said, this documentary captured it well. You really felt it.
I'll have to track that one down.
Yep, it's a good one.
I've heard about that Hedy Lamarr documentary. I've heard some things about it, and I definitely want to see that. Because from what I heard was, yeah, it's and especially what you were talking about, it just kind of floored me. So I'm definitely curious.
Yep, she was not particularly happy. She had a good life. But it wasn't a happy life necessarily, and she got screwed over several times in her life, and so it's kind of that kind of story, but it's also very interesting. But I'm kind of a geek for that sort of thing. So.
Right.
Let me ask you guys, have you heard of the documentary, I want to say Bill and the Batman?
Yes. Bill Finger, yeah.
Yeah. Is that a good one?
I've heard good things about it, but I hadn't seen anything.
Yeah, I haven't seen it either. I remember hearing something about it not long ago, but I haven't tracked it down yet.
Okay. What I did this weekend was immerse myself in several books. I read Jerry and the Joker, which is the memoir of Jerry Robinson, creator of the Joker.
Cool.
And I want to say that it was frickin' spectacular. He just has a very nonchalant way of describing what was going on around him at the time, and was successful at it.
So he wrote this himself?
Yes, he did.
Oh, cool.
There is also of the book, probably 30 to 50 pages of art, and looking at the art, I was floored. I did not know Jerry Robinson like I should. I was looking at a lot of his stuff as the Joker's creator, which looks like it leaned a lot on Bob Kane's influence for Batman, because you look at his Robinson's stuff outside that comic, he was so accomplished in what he did. He traveled several times to Europe. He was doing seminars it was really something to behold. Stuff that he was able to accomplish, and yet he was doing art for Playbill magazine, which comes out to the Broadway shows.
Mm-hmm.
He was doing a small article there. He was doing accomplished artwork with comic strips and also in the comic books. And now I want to go and find more work from Jerry Robinson to kind of compare what is out there. I also started reading. I've been going back and forth between the complete Cosmo, the Merry Martian. This is a collection of the work from Archie Comics. Cosmo ran 6 issues, and this is the 6 issues plus some of the short stories that Cosmo appeared in with Archie Comics, and also the inclusion of the first issue of Cosmo now in 2018.
Yeah.
So it's pretty snazzy stuff.
Yeah, I need to pick up one of those copies because I think I mentioned it. I think I mentioned on a past podcast. I'm pretty sure I did when I did the review on one of the issues. It's like I did not realize the character was around back the 50s or 60s, something like that. Mm-hmm. So I just thought it was a relatively new character, and it was kind of cool.
Yeah.
See them bring it back, and the series, the miniseries, which just completed about a month or so ago, was a fun read. So it would be nice to see if it's done well enough to garner at least another mini.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be nice.
Mm-hmm.
And if I may, the third book I've been looking at is Dean Haspiel's The Red Hook. This is pretty good stuff. It's about a super thief who is bequeathed the omnifist of altruism. And he is transformed into a hero against his will. So it's been pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah, you don't really think of superheroes doing it against their will. Not a lot of stories about that.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Yeah, I need to pick up those trades. I did pick up one this past week. It's from American Mythology, Underdog Classics. And these are collections from Charlton and Goldkey back from the 70s. And it's kind of funny kind of going back and reading some of these because I had never read any of the books before until American Mythology started doing these individual issues, or I guess it's supposed to be a mini-series, but there seems like there's some considerable time between issues. But, I mean, they're being faithful to the cartoon with him rhyming. And it's been kind of fun kind of reading all that because you're just wondering, okay, how are they going to do this? And it looks like what they've done is there's just some kind of unique look to the book. It's still the kind of the dot matrix print, but it's a smooth page. So I don't know if it's like they've been scanned in and then redone or whatever. I'm not sure. It's kind of a different look, because I mean, when I see some of the bigger publishers reprinting older material, they may go back and recolor or whatever. It doesn't look the same. It looks newer, but this doesn't. So it's kind of a unique look, and it's been, like I said, it's been a fun read.
Be interesting to find out what their process was for that.
Yeah, definitely. Alrighty. Before we get into this week's topic, I want to take a few moments to thank the fine folks at Things from Another World for sponsoring the fellowship. And currently, they're running their evergreen deals, which you can find out more information if you go to our website, www.thefellowshipofthegeeks.net, and click on our sponsors tab. And those deals include 40% off on comics, statues, toys, and merchandise, 30% off select pre-order manga titles, and 50% off Nick and Dent comics. Now, while you're on our page, you'll see information about these deals, and there may be some new deals come down the line, and we'll have all that information posted there as well as links that will take you to their website and let them know that we sent you their way. So when you get a moment, go check that out and let them know that we sent you, and take advantage of these great deals. Alrighty. Liz is going to be upset that she's missed this one, but this week, I figure we have a little fun. And of course, June. What is June best known for?
June bugs?
Oh, that too, but
You talking about the summer wedding thing?
Weddings, June weddings. I'm not sure why it's always June, but what the significance is. But
that's usually in places that have nicer Junes than we do. But yeah.
Oh, probably. That's a good point. So this summer we have a couple of weddings in some of the bigger publishers, and we figured to take a little time out to acknowledge those and maybe talk about other weddings and comics and just kind of have a little fun with that. Obviously, the one that is most current is the wedding of Colossus and Kitty Pryde, which that book comes out as this episode drops. It came out last week, so if that makes any sense to you. And there was a big deal about that issue, which we will not go into details because that is a spoiler.
Well, we technically could because it already came out.
True, but we don't like doing. I mean, we do spoiler warnings for films that are 30 years old. So
this is true.
So we're not going to spoil a comic that's been out not even a week yet. But obviously, if you follow some of the comic websites on social media, I'm sure you've seen something about this. But we will not go into that. But there was a wedding. And then obviously in a few more weeks we will have Batman and Catwoman get married, and that is actually the case from what I have been reading. It's not Bruce and Selina, it's actually Batman and Catwoman, which I thought was kind of an interesting distinction.
That is an interesting choice.
And from what I had read is they don't want to do it to. From what I'm understanding, if what I've read is correct, which it's the internet, it's always accurate, is that Selina has a criminal record
Well, I
And
don't
so
think,
why?
I don't think that's
Why
news.
would? Well, no, it's not news. But why would Selena? Why would Bruce want to marry a criminal? That I'm just like whatever. Let's just see what happens. You know, but it was kind of an interesting distinction that it was supposed to be Batman and Catwoman, not necessarily civilian identity, but at this point, it's still all guesswork. And until it hits a certain comic website, then there may be a little bit more fire to that smoke. But so with that little backdrop, I'm going to open it to the floor. Les?
This is a highly anticipated move. This is the union of two characters that have had the sexual tension just about since they first appeared. And that's been 75 years, which is hard to imagine, but it's true. Like I said, it's highly anticipated. I think it will be roundly accepted. I just have a feeling that this one is going to do a number on issues. I can see this one breaking records here in, 2 weeks now? So I've just got this feeling that this one's going to be the hit of the summer. I don't see any two ways about that. I think the anticipation is there, and as a result, it's going to have people in a frenzy. I know that sounds pretty stupid, but I've got a feeling that it's going to really get it going.
A wedding's a great way to create drama.
True.
So why not?
Then you add superheroes and supervillains, and it makes it even more dramatic.
Yep. I mean, how many supervillains are really going to be invited to that wedding? But anyway.
Well, I mean, I remember, I guess Reed and Sue were the first superheroes couple to get married.
True.
And that was pretty much a all-out brawl between the heroes and villains, and even had a cameo from Stan Lee and Jack Kirby.
Were they fighting too?
No, they were actually not allowed to go into the wedding.
Cute.
Do you remember that, Les?
Yes.
It was so cute that they actually recreated that in the Fantastic Four Rise of the Silver Surfer film. That was Stan Lee's cameo. He showed up and was not allowed in, which I thought was cute.
Which is something that people probably were not aware of.
Yeah, they probably didn't get the whole thing. They just thought that was kind of cute, but not realizing that, yes, that is copying from, I think it was King Size Fantastic Four or Fantastic Four Annual, something like that. One of those. It's one of the specials.
Right, but that's okay. Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a while since that one was current, so.
Right.
Now what I want to know is, did Batman ever get his divorce cleared from his last wedding? Because he's been married before. Did we ever see papers on that? Or is he?
I'm sure they're going to trot those right out.
Or is he about to be breaking the law himself? The old bigamy laws. Just saying. Admittedly, he was roofied a bit to get married the first time. But, Who's counting, right?
Mm. Who do you marry? What was that again?
Talia.
Oh, that's true.
You know, Damien's mom.
Mm. Yeah, I know who she is.
That wasn't really aimed at you, dude.
I've got a feeling they're going to look past that.
I think so.
Yeah, I wonder if they have not found a way in the story to not have to worry about it. I imagine there's something.
Well, I'm sure there'll be people out there digging up information. So it won't be long before someone uncovers the horrible truth.
The horrible truth.
I just have a feeling that people are going to dog it. They're going to be leaning on this till they are satisfied.
And what do you mean by dogging it? Why would they be dogging it?
I just think that they won't let it go.
Well, I guess the better question is, why would they be dogging it more than they dog everything else?
Mm.
Well, that's a good point.
I mean, admittedly, Bruce/Batman has not really proven over the years to be the marrying kind, but, you know, life is all about change, right? Unless you don't age for 80 years. Ooh, callback.
Yeah, we ought to have a topic about that sometime.
Speaking of somebody who doesn't listen to the show, geez. But anyway.
Yeah, I don't listen.
You live it. Every week.
I was already there, man. Don't need to repeat it.
Yep.
As far as marketing, is this a good deal?
I think so. I think there's been excitement about this. I think there's been a lot of excitement about this. Certainly more than the Colossus Kitty Pryde. But yeah, I think it's been well received so far, which makes me really concerned that I'm hoping that they don't pull a fast one and the wedding does not go through. That they don't get married, something happens at the last second and it doesn't. I think there will be a lot of upset readers. Frankly, because the stories leading up to this have been really good. They've been I've been reading them, and as soon as I finish that last page and I'm closing the book, go, wow, that was good.
True.
So, for us to come up to the payoff and then go, well, she leaves altar or he has second thoughts or something happens and they realize, what this is, as much as they care about each other, this is probably not going to work because in the end, he's fighting for justice and she's basically a criminal at heart. And they'll never get past that.
Maybe, but I mean, they've been riding that particular chunk of tension, dramatic tension, for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, if nothing else, this might be a way to shift that a bit. I mean, it's just, I don't know.
Honestly, what I would think would be interesting, and we know she's getting her own book and all that. I think it would be nice for her if they did something different with her instead of her being either the cat burglar that every once in a while does the right thing, or something along those lines, that not necessarily be a hero per se, but with her skill sets and all of that, I could see her being a spy or something like that. Like what they try to do with Dick Grayson. They kind of went Jason Bourne on him there for a bit. I can see them doing something like that for her, and I think it would work real well. But no one asked me.
A gross oversight on their part, I assure you.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So you see them as individual stories?
Sorry?
You see them as individual stories then? In other words,
see what is individual stories?
where she is a contract killer or whatever.
Well, not so much a contract killer, but would her go work for the DEO or something like that? Just kind of that kind of stuff, because she, like I said, she's got the skill set. Kind of do something different from her than being the costume cat burglar. That, like I said, every once in a while she'll fight on the side of the good guys because that's the right thing to do.
Or it profits her more in the moment.
True.
It's an interesting idea.
And honestly, I mean, considering who is writing and drawing the new book, Joelle Jones, it kind of makes sense to do that.
There might be some precedent there, yes.
Yeah.
And faithful listeners to this show should probably be aware of the Lady Killer series. We sure as hell talked about it enough.
True that.
Because it was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I find it interesting that in what research I did for this, it seems like there are a lot more Marvel weddings than DC weddings.
Yes.
Am I reading that right?
Yes, probably.
It's just, I don't know. Which kind of makes me wonder. I kind of start thinking about the whole dramatic thing and how that has worked out in terms of those two publishers. I don't know. I'm not as familiar with, honestly, probably either of them to comment at all, but specifically, I'm not as familiar with DC and how they've crafted their stories over the last, say, 40 years. But it seems like Marvel has always tended to be a little more relationship-based than DC. And so I'm kind of assuming that's why. I find myself wondering why DC hasn't gone that route more, but.
Well, let me see if I can come up with who has gotten married in the DC universe. Obviously, we've had Clark and Lois, Barry and Iris, Ollie and Diana for a very short period of time.
I'm looking at a cover with Aquaman and Mera.
Oh, that's true. There was that too. Yep. Hawkman, Hawkgirl, Elongated Man, and Sue. They were already married when we first were introduced to them, if I'm not mistaken, Les, right?
No.
They weren't? Okay.
No. Ralph was dating Sue.
Okay.
I see Green Arrow and Black Canary here, too.
Yeah, that's what I was saying with Ollie and Diana. Sorry.
Oh, Ollie, right. Sorry.
Yeah. No problem. Obviously had Lightning Lad and Saturn Girl.
Mm-hmm.
And then Bouncing Boy and Duodasmo. Both are from Legion. There was also... I'm trying to remember, did Karate Kid and Princess Projecta get married?
Yeah, you got me.
That's a pretty obscure one.
Well, they're all part of the Legion.
Yeah.
Well, there was 2 or 3 in the Legion. There was 2 or 3 weddings in the Legion. I'm trying to remember exactly right now. But
I'm also seeing Donna Troy.
Marrying
Jerry Long.
And he wasn't a superhero. He was just a regular guy. I remember that now. Yep.
This article describes him as, quote, a creepy ex-college professor in a dead-end job.
Woohoo! Aren't they all?
So, yeah, there you go.
I wonder if you look at the weddings, there have been a couple that did not make it. But just out of curiosity, how many of the married couples stayed in publication? Spider-Man?
Or more appropriately, stayed married without major shakeups in the continuity.
Yes.
I think some of them have been unmarried and based on some weird stuff that's going on. But Spidey's still married? Cool.
In one version, yes, yeah.
Right.
Really, out of all of them, they still together. Obviously, Soups and Lois. Obviously, Reed and Sue.
They're not even in publication anymore, though.
Well, but they're coming back. They're coming back here. They're coming back here in another few weeks.
Oh, that's right. I remember you saying that a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
I just wonder if it's kind of a death knell for characters to get married. And when I say death knell, I'm looking at the idea that publication ceases.
I don't...
The marriage wasn't enough to keep the book together.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't know about that. Because, I mean, like Elongated Man and Sue, I mean, they never were really any kind of... They were never starring in their own book, but they had, once they got married, they were together forever until Identity Crisis happened. And then they killed her off.
I hate when that happens.
But that was a plot driven.
Yeah, that was part of the. Yeah, that was part of the plot. Yeah. Not so much just like, hey, well, let's just do this to shake things up a little bit. It was. Now DC received a lot of flack during the beginning of the New 52 because they undid a bunch of these marriages. Flash and Iris, Soups and Lois Lane, until they did all their whatever you want to call it to bring that back. Hell, Aquaman and Mera are still not married, as far as I know. They hadn't changed that in Rebirth because that was part of the whole kind of the subplot.
They weren't actually married?
But they were at one time.
No, I mean in Rebirth.
No, because I'm pretty sure they weren't married because she was because there was this whole story of her trying to being taught, like, I can't remember right now. There was just this whole thing of learning what it was going to be for her to be the queen of Atlantis.
Mm-hmm.
It's something along those lines. It's been a while since I read those. You know, and then you mentioned Green Lantern, Green Arrow. It was like they got married, and then the New 52 happened, and they didn't know each other. Not only was the marriage disappeared, they were not really aware of each other, and so, you know, the New 52 undid a lot of stuff, and then Rebirth brought a lot of it back.
And that was because DC believed they made a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
And were owning up to it.
One that I wasn't aware of, and I'm still not sure.
Okay.
Apparently Deadpool got married.
Yeah.
Lady Deadpool?
No, it was... Can't remember the name right now. But yeah, that did happen.
So I guess it can happen to anybody.
I
would be curious to see that story that led to that.
Let's see who it was, because I'm sure somebody's out there yelling the name, but I'm just, as someone who does not read Deadpool, I remember them.
Yeah, no, I was just shocked to find them on one of the lists that I found.
Shishkla, Queen of the Undead.
All right, well there you go then.
Shiklah. So there you go.
A good Irish name.
I can't help but think that given what Deadpool does, that's pretty fitting in a way, really.
Marriage made in hell.
Mm-hmm.
Or purgatory, one or the other. I don't.
It's potato.
So let me ask you this, Les: Does the wedding go through?
Yes, I do believe so. Now, if they're going to treat it like Marvel did with Sue and Reed, thank you. I don't know. Because in the Fantastic Four wedding, you had the main characters being attacked by the villains, but they never fought.
Right. Yeah.
Everybody else. I'm sorry?
Go ahead.
I was just going to say everybody else in the Marvel Universe was fighting while these folks were seeing if they had cold feet.
Yeah. Honestly, if I had to place a bet, I would say nothing like that's going to happen. The way Tom King's been going in the main book, it's been a lot of kind of a drama and kind of interpersonal dialogue and that kind of stuff, not so much action and all that. I think you're getting the action in the one-shots, the prelude one-shots. So I think this is going to be kind of a simple wedding. I could be totally off, and I wouldn't be surprised if I am. But that's just kind of my gut feeling, the way things have been going.
So if it's Batman and Catwoman that are getting married instead of Bruce and Selina,
mm-hmm.
Are Batman and Catwoman legally people?
I'm not sure how all this is going to work.
Seems like they'd have a hard time getting a marriage certificate, but maybe I'm overthinking it.
Yeah, but can you imagine them going to Target and putting in their list?
Oh no, that's the easy part because they give you the little gun and you walk around zapping all the tags on the shelves. That's fun. But I'm talking about going to the county office and walking up there and asking for the marriage certificate form and trying to figure out if Batman's his first name or his last name, and if Batman has a social security number and all of that kind of BS. That's the part that I'm finding hard to believe is going to really work out.
And see if Bat is his first name and Man is his last. And,
right.
Yeah.
Or maybe his first name is The.
That's what I was about to say. It's the Batman.
Which makes me wonder what his middle name is. But
well, we know what that is.
Do we?
Mm-hmm.
What's his middle name?
Goddamn.
Oh, yes, I agree. That's
the goddamn Batman.
I totally forgot that. Can't believe I blanked on that. Damn it. I walked into that big time.
I can't believe he brought that up.
He even says it that way. I mean, I mean, I don't know what the question was, but clear. I don't think it was, please state your name for the record. Though that would be funny as hell. Having Batman testifying to something in court. Please state your name for the record. I'm the goddamn Batman.
Yeah, that would be a shock. Maybe that's his middle name. Goddamn.
Makes more sense than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see any reason. I mean, I'm not really paying that much attention, but I honestly could see him going either way. I think the bigger trick here might be to actually have it happen. I think the people looking to be surprised. I think the surprise here is going to be if it really happens.
The thing is, if the wedding goes through, I think there would be interesting. I think there would be some interesting news stories and a new dynamic. Now with that, I think it changes things. But if they just break up, then it's kind of the same thing as it was before, except for they almost got married this one time. So nothing really changed.
They got even closer to actually getting married this time.
Right.
And I don't know. I think it needs a change. I think that dynamic has been going on too long, and it's stale, and nobody's paying any attention to it anymore.
Yeah.
I hope it doesn't become an imaginary tale.
No, they don't do that. They don't do that anymore.
Okay.
Well, that was what Elseworlds was for. When they developed the Elseworld line, that was what they were. That was basically their imaginary stories. And I seriously don't think they'll get married, and then a few months down the line, Satanists show up or something like that, and then Bruce or Selena makes a deal with him. The wedding didn't happen. They never got married, and here's my exchange. Here's what I'm offering for that to happen.
Right. Here's the cat's eye diamond or whatever.
Yeah, we're not doing the Spider-Man One More Day thing. I hope.
Oh God, I hope.
Or whatever the hell they did with Scarlet Witch and Vision.
True. Well, I guess we will see in a couple weeks. Like I said, I just think it'll go through. Now, how long would it last? who's to say? But I think the wedding will happen.
I don't see any reason why not.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure there are plenty of reasons why not, but I think it would be more interesting, a more interesting story if it does.
Right.
So do we want to lay bets or what?
I'm not putting money on this.
I'm not putting money on this either. I've not had a lot of success recently, so.
The old Predictotron 5000 is not working properly.
Mm.
I'm telling you, once the purple blue comes out of the Magic 8 Ball, it doesn't work anymore.
And that's just not right.
Time to get a new one.
Yep. Alrighty, so any final thoughts before we wrap this up and take a break?
Let's just hope it goes well. And there's no need to do a quick turn for what's going to happen.
Yep. Being married as long as I have been married, I'm not going to make any comments about it.
Alrighty, well, we'll find out here real soon. And with that, we're going to take a break and come back with weekly picks. And we're back. It's time for our weekly picks, and leading off is Mike.
I'm leading off this week, and as I promised, my first book is a Dark Horse book. This week heralds the end of Harrow County. Issue number 32 comes out this week, and of course it's going to be the great dramatic ending with the big showdown between the protagonist and the main antagonist. Emmy is finally facing off with Hester. And who knows how this puppy's going to end at this point. As fights go, it's too close to call. So, and this is, of course, the end of a really great series that will be greatly missed, of course. And so, but I mean, there's always the ever-present curiosity as to how they're gonna do it. So they're going out on their own terms, which is always nice. So it'll be fun to check this one out.
Yep.
Sad but fun.
But it's been a good solid run too.
Oh, yeah, it sure has. Good all the way through.
Cool. Yeah, I'm sad to see this one go. I'm up next, and for my first choice, I'm going with Alterna Comics. And it's the first issue of a miniseries called Metaphase. And this has already been released as a graphic novel. It's now being done as in serial format. And it's about a boy named Ollie who has Down syndrome. And he wants to be a superhero, just like his father is. And then here comes a company who wants to give super powers to anybody. And so obviously we kind of have an idea where this is going to go, but this has gotten a lot of positive attention because of the main character, and it's the writer Chip Reese has a son who has Down syndrome, so this was kind of his inspiration for doing the book. This should be fun. It'll be great little read.
Yep, it's a cool idea.
How many issues is it?
I believe about 3.
Oh, okay.
Alternas usually turn to be 3 or 4, so.
Yeah, it'll be a nice, tight story then.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Alrighty, Les.
My first choice comes from IDW. This is Lowlifes, #1. This is another crime story which really intrigues me. It's the story of a crime boss's poker game, which is robbed, and 3 lowlifes, a bad cop, a drug addict, and a thug, attempt to stay one step ahead of the others. So this appeals to me mainly because it is the crime story, and I'm wanting this one to be strong. I would suspect it's going to be a limited series, but I don't know for sure. I'm looking forward to it either way.
Yeah, I noticed this one too.
Yep.
I'm curious as well.
I am curious as well. This one. Yeah, me 3. This one looked real good. So, alrighty, Mikey.
Okie dokie. I've got another crime story too. And this one, I am pleasantly surprised about on this one. I did not know this was coming until I saw it on the list this week. This is a Titan book, and it is called Mike Hammer. This is a #1. My guess is that, well, at least I can only hope that this is going to become like a kind of a series of individual arcs, not unlike the Dynamite's James Bond series. But this is written by Max Allan Collins, who we've seen recently doing comics a little more. And he's kind of the guy who was hand chosen by Mickey Spillane to take over the Mike Hammer stuff, to take the kind of the ideas he had written down and write novels based on them. He's done I want to say 5 or 6 prose novels, and so now that the idea that of this branching into comics, I think is a perfect. I think it's a perfect idea, because I've kind of been a fan of the Mike Hammer books for a long time. So yeah, I'm real excited about this one.
Cool. Should be a good one.
I'm looking. Oh, go on, sir.
I said everything. Go ahead.
I was just going to say I'm looking forward to this one too. It seems like it's going to just hit in there and be the definitive Mike Hammer story.
And this has got to be part of the noir line for Titan, right? I'm trying to blanking on the name.
Yeah, the hard case.
Yes, hard case.
Yeah, it is. It totally is.
And Hard Case has been put out some good stuff.
Yeah,
yep.
They have done some really good stuff. And so hopefully this will add to that track record. Woo.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty. I am up next, and for my second pick, I turn to Oni Press. It's the first issue of a new series called Shadow Roads. And this is written by Cullen Bunn and Brian Hurt. And apparently this is a spin-off of the Six Gun run, which I hate to admit, but I have not read, but I probably should read. But the premise is there is a mystical plane where it kind of meets at the crossroads, and a doorway throughout the universe, and you have these group of adventurers who meet here and battle back whatever forces are coming out from the crossroads. This was a part of the Free Comic Book Day selections. If you did not pick up a copy, you may want to check with your local comic book stores, see if they still have some left. I picked it up and was very intrigued with what I read. So, and I knew this was coming. So once it popped up, I'm like, yeah, I definitely want to check this one out.
Sounds pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice.
So it's a supernatural western. There's not a lot of those out there.
No, that's true.
Some of them have been hit or miss in the past, but my understanding is the Sixth Gun is pretty good. So
Yeah.
yeah, I haven't read it either, but gonna have to go back and do that at some point.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
I think the trade's are out, so.
Oh yeah.
I believe there are several of them too.
Yes. There are several of them. Alrighty, Les.
My second choice is Bedtime Games. This is from Dark Horse Comics. It's issue number 1 of 4. And in this, you've got 3 friends that start their senior year of high school by exploring the past of their school. Before the night is over, they're in trouble when they set loose an evil that seeks to prey on their worst nightmares. So, yeah, I'm ready for a good horror story, and it's just a short while before we get to Halloween. I'm ready to see how this is handled.
Yeah, this was on my radar too. This one looked kind of interesting. I definitely want to check this one out because it had piqued my interest.
Sounds good to me.
Alrighty. Since we do not have Liz with us, we're all having a third choice or our alternate choice, however you want to view it. So, Mikey, what is your next choice?
I've got an IDW book, and this is the collected trade of the second arc of the comic book history of comics, which was titled Comics for All. We've obviously talked about this before when it was coming out in single issues, and it is just as much fun as the first one. If you are in any way interested in comics history or comics history, you got to be reading this stuff because it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of interesting details in here that, I mean, some of it will sound familiar, and some of it you'll never have heard before. And with this one, they actually got into some comics from other countries and other cultures, and so that got to be really interesting too. So lots of good stuff in these books, and it's really well presented. Really well presented.
Very cool.
It is shown, like you say, it's very well done. They do have some humor, but they really rely on the facts that they present, and it's fascinating stuff. I've read a lot of the issues, and it's definitely one of those that people should read.
Yeah, they say truth is stranger than fiction, and I think this series has been a really good example of that. Because some of these stories have been just so convoluted and so wild. It's been great.
Yep.
Hoping there's going to be more.
Hear, hear.
Mm-hmm. Totally agree. Okay, for my next choice, I am going with American mythology, and it's the Three Stooges Matinee Madness. And a thing that really piqued my interest on this, because they're doing something different with this book, and I guess it's going to be starting with this book, and they'll keep doing it, is they're going to, while the stories are new, they're going to try to recapture the feel and the look of the classic shorts. So it's all going to be kind of in grayscale, and try to use classic artwork and that kind of stuff. So I think that's a really cool idea to kind of just invoke the old serials from the 30s and from the 30s to the 50s. So I definitely would like to check that out. And bravo for them doing that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It might be a little risky, but if it's done well, it could be really, really good. The payoff would be huge.
Yeah.
If it's done well. I mean, and there's a lot of really good black and white art out there too. I mean, some of my favorite books are black and white books. I never would have thought that 5 years ago, but so I hope it works.
I hope so too.
Hear, hear.
Alrighty, Les.
My third choice comes from Alterna Comics. It's called It Came Out on a Wednesday. This is intriguing to me because it's kind of a fanzine type book. They will be showing ongoing stories. They have interviews. They have a comic contest. And they have previews for upcoming Alterna titles. And of course, they get the title from the fact that new comics come out on Wednesday. So they look like they're going to just release the hounds for this. I think this is going to be a fun way to look at the comics and see the new titles that they're going to hit the stands with. Because just on the cover, I see 5 upcoming titles included. And that does not include the 2 ongoing and plus the comic contest, which you vote for the winner. So I'm all in for this.
Sounds pretty cool to me. Is this the first issue or the second issue?
Yeah,
This is the first issue.
Okay. Good. Okay. Cool. Yeah. It does sound like it's kind of everything you want in an anthology, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Pretty cool idea.
And the thing is with all the added pages, it still only goes up 49 cents. It's still less than $2.
Yep.
So that's a heck of a deal to get all those stories for $2.
Pretty sweet.
Yep.
Alrighty, any special shout outs or mentions this week?
Nope, not from me.
Just that a new book is coming out from Dark Horse. Larry Marder's Bean World is being collected. And if you've read any of his series, it's a lot of fun. And it's very simplistic in its artwork. The stories are a little bit more complicated at times, but the art saves it from that too.
Cool.
Very cool. Alrighty. We'll move on to our regular shout outs. First, Thank you to Mandy the Martyr for supplying us with music for the podcast. Definitely go check out their site. We'll have a link in the show notes, and it's very much appreciated. Second of all, I want to thank the fine folks of Podern Family on Twitter for spreading the word of the Fellowship, retweeting and liking our episode posts. You should definitely go check them out. Especially if you're looking for a podcast, the best way to do that would be to do a search. You don't necessarily have to have an account. Just do hashtag Podern Family, all one word, and knock yourself out. Just check out the first show you see that kind of catches your attention. Download it and check it out, and you'll probably be a fan for life. Thank you guys for your support, as always. And finally, you, dear listener, thank you for downloading and listening to today's episode. We appreciate your support in the past, of course. And we value your feedback. You have a comment, suggestion, complaint, observation, question, we'd love to hear from you. And there are several ways you can do that. Email at thefellowshipofthegeeks.net, or you can go to the website and click on the About Us tab, and there's a contact form that you can fill out. You can also follow us on social media. We are on Facebook, the Fellowship of the Geeks. Feel free to like our page. And we're also obviously on Twitter at Fellowship Geeks. Feel free to follow us there. And you can follow our personal Twitter accounts if you'd like. Mike is at Mikey Geek. Liz is at Newman_L. And I'm at TomTC Geek. And wherever you download and listen to our shows, whether it's through iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, YouTube, iHeartRadio, or Spotify, if you would please rate us and review us, it would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. Any final thoughts before we say goodbye?
No, just thanks, everybody.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you for listening once again, gang. And Liz, hopefully you will be with us next week. Until then, read more comics and support your local stores.
We thank you for listening to the show. Comments, suggestions, and questions can be sent to email at thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can follow us on Facebook at The Fellowship of the Geeks and on Twitter at Fellowship Geeks. Until next time,